Corey Moore, coming at you to let you know about the vigilantes. Of course, everybody, I mean, if you watch the scrap, if you listen to the scrap at all, you know about the vigilantes. But I want to be very clear and let everybody know we are moving to Patreon. The vigilantes are moving to Patreon. There's been so many people who said, hey, I don't do Facebook. I can't be a part of the vigilantes. I'm not on Facebook. And I get it. We get it. So now we are moving to Patreon. It is independent of any of the social media platforms. It is its own thing. You can join us on Patreon. So what does that mean? If you're already a vigilante, man, go join Patreon. We will stop your payment. We will refund. If you are on an annual subscription, we will refund what has remained. We will make it happen. We are going to take care of you and get you in there. It's already a beautiful platform. So much going on in there. These are the things. If you're not a vigilante, I'm just asking you, why not? Go to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/thevigilantes. And you get access to the vigilante-only swag shop, the Fire Away live Q&As, behind the scenes of the scrap. You influence the scrap on where it's going to go. Member only, exclusive live videos, complete access to all the past archives, all the past forums, all the past Q&As, the 15% off vigilante code for the firehousevigilance.com store, access to the after party, man. I mean, that's every scrap, the after party. It's unbelievable. And of course, the VIP forums where we talk to some of the best in the business one-on-one in a giant meeting where everybody has a voice. It's exciting. So if you're not a vigilante, go be one. If you are a vigilante, go sign up at patreon.com so you can get it transferred over. It's going to be a fun transfer, but we're making it happen. It's already been amazing today. I think over 100 people today have already signed up, and we just announced it this morning. So go be a part. Vigilantes, patreon.com/thevigilantes, or go to firehousevigilance.com and you can click the button there. Very, very easy. Be a part. Be one of the cool kids. Why not? Make it happen. Love you all. See ya. Firehouse Vigilant, Corley Moore. It is weekly scrap number 244. Who would have ever dreamed it? 244 scraps. Tonight's guest is one of my absolute favorite people on the planet. It is Scott Thompson, fresh off of his keynote address at FDIC 2024, being cowboy ready. He is the fire chief of the Colony Fire Department, where he puts into practice the things that he preaches. He is the author of The Functional Fire Company, which is one of the books that has had a huge impact on me and my career. He's an instructor, an author. He is a family man, and he is a proud father and grandfather, and it is my absolute pleasure to have him on as the guest for scrap number 244. Welcome, my brother, my mentor, my friend, Chief Scott Thompson.
Thank you, my brother, Corley Moore, and you're my inspiration, man. The stuff that you get done in a day would take me 3 months. So congratulations on number 244 on the scrap. You had a great show last week with Mr. Shaw on there, and that was awesome. And so you're doing great stuff, buddy. I always, you can ask as much as you want. I'm never going to say no unless I'm on a plane or in the hospital. So thank you for the kind introduction, and I always look forward to this.
Hey, I tell everybody this. I have to be very careful because the people I love, I will have on every week. And like you said earlier, it may just be me and you talking and nobody listening, but we would do it every week. So I have to be.
I'm sure when somebody saw I was coming on again, they rolled their eyes and went, oh, gosh, not again. So my promise to you is to try to bring a lot of new stuff and not just regurgitate some of the same old things that I say on every show. Not that I don't believe in them. I still live by them, but I'm trying to bring some fresh stuff to the scrap.
I appreciate, and I love the topic, and I posted the topic list earlier, and people were voting and everything, and I love the fact that you love that, and I'll say that I would listen to you regurgitate the other stuff too. So I'm just being honest. I mean that. Is there anything I missed in the intro? Anything you want to add?
Not at all, man. Let's just have fun.
Good enough. I would try to catch you up on everything. I'm going to try and catch a little bit here, which is let's get this party started from Jay Hillis, Cody Brooks checking in. I've listened to his speech from FDIC like 5 times driving to class or work. So damn good. Isaac B said, America's Chief, let's go. Joe Gavita says, I'm cowboy ready. Cody Brooks said, let's do some cowboy shit. And we're live. Yes, I can see it. There we go. Nevery Easy's LFG's flying up. Someone said Shaw and Thompson keynoters back to back. Absolutely. John Shackelford said Chief Thompson is one of the best out there. I agree with your sentiment. Marco Asomi said,
you're too kind.
Tons of hype about you, sir. So I could keep reading, but you get the gist. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get to the sponsors so that we can get to the scrap. The OG sponsor of the scrap, the original sponsors of all time, Keyhose. Check them out online at keyhose.com and follow them on Facebook. Then there is the Affordable Drill Towers. On a mission to bring you cost-effective and versatile training props like the Affordable Bailout Prop, which allows you to practice window bailouts, ladder bailouts, and ladder high point rescues. They also make the Affordable Standpipe Prop, which you can roll into the classroom for standpipe theory and then roll it into the parking lot and pump realistic flows and pressures. And of course, their mainstay, the Affordable Drill Tower. It comes in several configurations and comes standard with a standpipe system. Choose from 1 or 2 sets of stairs, integrate it into your existing Connex boxes for multi-story access or freestanding on a slab. All models are NFPA 1402 compliant and gain you ISO credit. The only thing that you can't do on an affordable drill tower is live fire training. Call Steve, 844-55-TOWER, or drop an email to info@affordabledrilltowers.com. FirestationFurniture.com provides a complete line of quality furniture for your firehouse. I love their hashtag, stop blaming the recliner. That I really do, man. There's a purpose for it. But if you want a good quality firefighter owned and operated company, they understand the strain firefighters put on furniture and offer furniture that's built to last. Visit www.firestationfurniture.com for more information. And I always love when we have a new sponsor, so I like to make a big deal about it. New sponsor, Howell Rescue Systems, is your source for the most advanced rescue equipment. Genesis, Draeger, SuperVac, Arctic, and more. Our service team will keep your rescue equipment at peak performance. It's not just a transaction, it's a commitment to quality, sales, service, and training. Call Howell Rescue Systems 800-228-7612 or Howell, Howell, HowellRescue.com. All right. Housekeeping done. Gotta pay the bills. I love it, man.
A lot of great sponsors.
Candace Ashby said, I want to be like Chief Thompson when I grow up. I love that, man.
No, Dr. Ashby. She's leading the way in leadership.
That is very true.
Training. Let me tell you, she's doing great stuff.
No, there is a pre-scrap ritual where I usually pick up some sort of gummy. Today I picked up blue sharks. I apologize for the blue tongue, but that is what's going on. And so it is what it is. I don't apologize, really. I embrace it. Let's start with what everybody...
I got my CFT cup, special for the occasion. Just fresh back from Pensacola, right?
Yes, today.
You are?
Landed today. No, I woke up in Florida and doing a scrap at home. Oh, there's already questions coming in. So let's get to it, Chief. I'm going to throw it. I'm going to keep it with the thing I posted today, asking people what do they want to start with. And it was a toss-up between topic C and topic D. But topic C was the mission mindset. Very broad topic, so you can take it whatever direction you want. But I'm throwing it at you. The mission mindset. Hit me with where you think we're at and talk about it, and then we'll dig in.
So let's just, for the sake of this conversation, let's not look at it as a big topic. Let's look at it as a very small topic, because that's kind of what it is. The thing that's so critical about a mission mindset is there's so many things day to day that pull us apart. Corley, you guys got what, 4 firehouses and
yes, sir.
3 shifts, and there's those similar organizations that say we have, 15 different ways of doing things, 13 different ways, however many battalions we have in shifts. So the thing that I love, there's 2 things about the mission that I love. Number one, it defines us. It highlights what we believe in, our leadership philosophies, our operational philosophies. And so it's a very powerful, short, and it needs to be short statement that defines us. The second thing that I love about the mission is it's something that we can all come together and focus on. It brings us together, and it takes us from uh, um, chaos to clarity to understanding. And so, in one of my keynotes is called the mission mindset, and I talk a lot about it because I believe in it. But I always ask the question: if not this, what? If
Right.
your organization is not focused on the mission, whatever that mission looks like, and we all write our own, and that's part of the problem. We're getting a little too creative with the mission. We're trying to impress our peers, and we create these missions that aren't workable. They're, as I said in my keynote, they're like fine art hanging in headquarter wall with motivating words, but they say nothing about saving lives or protecting property.
Mm.
But if you have a well thought out working mission that an engine boss or a truck boss can read and say, okay, I understand, I get it, I know what my role is in fulfilling the mission, and then you make that part of your chosen culture, the whole organization can focus on that, and it's your true north, and it's your purpose is part of that. It's the things, your priorities. And so all those things, if you can get that to be part of the culture, the things that the organization values, man, that becomes such a powerful leadership tool and an operational tool that just a lot of great things grow out of it. But if you're not focused on the mission, what are you focused on? We have core values, those complement the mission. Our purpose statement complements the mission. But at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, it should be about the mission. The most important thing we do, it's our verbal contract with our community, with our members, with all the stakeholders that have anything to do with fire, rescue, and emergency medical services. So to me, like I said, there's very few things, culture being one of them, that can be, not necessarily are, can be more influential than the mission. So when we talk about a mission mindset, are we doing things, each tour to reinforce that? I'm a big believer in roll calls. To me, roll call first thing in the morning, and I'm not talking about the big formal thing where you stand at attention and everybody's got their you know Class A on, and it's a white glove inspection, but it's the officer, company officer, acting or the permanent coming in and investing each morning in the crew and getting them in that mission mindset, why we're here, why we exist. Hey, we want to be the go-to fire company today. And so if you have officers that buy into the mission because they believe in it and they understand their purpose, then every day they can help get everybody in that mindset. So that really becomes one of the most important things of the day. And I think if you have that, like I say, as your true north, man, you really can't go wrong. But the other side of that, if you're not focused on the mission, what are you focusing on? All the other things, the thousands of other things that pull us apart instead of bringing us together.
Mm, I love it. And you travel a lot. You talk to a lot of firefighters, and we've had a lot of discussions at many places. What do you think is the why is there the disconnect from the mission mindset? How did it take root and seem to be so systemic across everywhere?
A couple of reasons. First of all, I think we lost that association between taking the oath and the mission. To me, when I raise my right hand before my family, before God, before the American Fire Service, and those words are, you state your name, hereby swear. What I'm swearing to do is to be a public servant that's fulfilling the mission. Okay. That's how I look at it. That's what separates us from everybody else on the planet, firefighters, is we voluntarily put ourselves, raise that right hand and said, I'm pledging to do this. So that's number one. The oath and the mission kind of go hand in hand. Number two, and I take shots at chiefs when the opportunity present themselves, but too many mission statements are written so that chiefs can impress their peers and not as a working document for their firefighters. In other words, they want this something on their website that's 15 paragraphs long, and it talks about everything but saving lives and protecting property.
Right.
Now, all those other things are important, but what is the most important? That's what the mission needs to highlight. And then I think we have just gotten away from standing for anything. We're all over the place in the American Fire Service on what we stand for. We can't even agree that we exist to save lives and protect property. And so I think the combination of all those things has caused what I refer to as mission drift. If I'm a fire chief that goes around and saying, "Hey, fires are down. We're an EMS department that occasionally goes to fires," that starts mission drift. That's saying, "Hey, these things aren't that important. Let's talk." I want to sound progressive. I want to sound like we're on the cutting edge of BS. So I make up all, and it's a smoke and mirrors thing, and it all takes the attention away from the mission. So the thing that should be the most important is now not, and it becomes something other than a mission statement. It just becomes something that nobody knows what to do with. But if an engine boss or truck boss or the newest firefighter in the organization can't look at that mission and go, "Okay, I get it. I know what my job is in fulfilling that," it's a swing and a miss.
Boom. I love it. All right, brother. There are questions. I'm trying to figure out if I want to kick it to writing position and deployment or go straight. I'm going to go to questions first, and then we'll go to D. So I'll go to the first question coming at you from the audience, because I love involving the audience, and I think it's what makes the scrap awesome. Bradley Feely wants to know, for you both, what advice would you give yourself now when you became a chief? Personnel, tactics, relationships, etc. What would make your being a chief better? What advice would you give yourself now with your hindsight if you were brand new into your position?
Wow, Bradley, that's a great question, and I said I wasn't going to repeat myself, but I'm going to, because I think this was one of the questions that was asked before. But and there's a lot of great chiefs out there practicing. Uh, you know, Jason Hoverman, who did the second day keynote's a great one. There's a lot of good ones, but there's too many things out there, and I'm not going to get specific. I'll let you fill in the blanks. There's too many things that try to program chiefs that say when you become a chief, when you have the five trumpets on your collar, you need to think like this, right? I'm an adult. I have put my efforts in the areas that I felt would produce the greatest returns in my members in studying and learning. I don't need other chiefs telling me how to be a chief. Now they can counsel me. They can like in an academic setting, they can tell me this is how you solve these problems and so forth. But these aggressive chiefs that said this is what you need to do to be successful, I wouldn't listen to that anymore. And I think that's a big problem. And the same thing is occurring with city managers. These select universities that are teaching city managers how to think, and they're not allowing to be independent thinkers. So I think Bradley, it was Bradley, right? I think
Yes.
that's the big thing is I would be more of an independent thinker, and I would think about what's best for me at the local level. Delivering fire service is situational, it's local, it's regional, and then it's occupational. So, my city depends on me to do what's best for the colony, Texas. And so that would probably be one big thing. Of course, they didn't have as much of it when I was coming up. We certainly have podcasts, but I would read a lot more. I would have started reading a lot earlier and really not just read, but become a student. I think I started that a little too late in my career, and it's paid such huge dividends. And then I would surround myself with people that complement my weaknesses. And I think we all go through that exercise where we have an ego or we think we know more than we do. To me, leadership starts with a look in the mirror. That's where it's got to start. And so I would try to find more diverse people to hang around instead of more people that are like me, that confirm my biases and
Sure.
thought like I did. And I would put myself in rooms with people who challenged my thought process and that could enter into a constructive debate, and that we could get in the weeds. It's very hard still in this day in the American Fire Service to find anybody who will really get in the weeds on a conversation. And that was just proven at FDIC. I got to talk to a lot of people, a lot of fire service leaders. And as soon as you venture off from the chit chat, the small talk, and want to start talking about serious stuff and getting in, that's what was so awesome about Bobby. They tap out. They don't want to go in for the hard conversation. And so I think all those things are things that I've learned over the years. And then you got to remember really what the job of the chief is. None of being a chief is about me. It's all about the members. And every day I try to keep track to what I invest and what I sacrifice for the members of the organization. And some days it's more than others. But I think as soon as we start worrying more about our pensions or our next job or the next promotion, that becomes our focus. You know, if I spend 8 hours a day locked up in my office so I can get my master's degree and I'm ignoring the organization, you know, all those things I think kind of play in. What are your priorities, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's beautiful, brother. I wish I could. I don't know if you're seeing the chat at all. Carpe Fuego said, "Can we clone this man?" Candace Ashby said, "Amen." Alan said, "Max points with about 7 X's." Valerie Vega said, "Timestamp." Those who go in the weeds are gold. And then Sam came in and said, "Good luck keeping up with the timestamps on this one." And Dan Bender, this is the one I love. He said, "Take a drink every time someone says timestamp or max points during the scrap." At which point Joe Gavita said, "This whole scrap is a timestamp." And so,
too kind.
No, it's killing it. Absolutely killing it.
That's why I love coming on the scrap for everybody who listens in and participates.
Man, they are the gold. They really are. I can't ever say it enough. MWC training. I don't know if that is Midwest City because that's what it makes me think of right here. And training would be their training chief, but I don't know if that's him or not. Let me know. MWC training said, "Chief, do you guys still run the spring training program?"
Yes, we do. And our guys, like I said, you know, I'm not going to take any credit for that. I kind of had the vision, but yes, we just got done in March, and the organization has taken it to a whole new level. And I tell you what's been really cool. You know, we're a fire first preparedness philosophy. I've said that before, and we maintain that. But we've hired 18 single role paramedics. We just had our first promotions. We promoted some EMS lieutenants and some FTPs, and I'll tell you, they're getting very involved in spring training and offering some great stuff, and the guys are loving it. And what's really cool is one of our single role paramedics, Stephen Wilcox, submitted a program to FDIC this year and got accepted.
Nice.
And his topic was, "Is your EMS aggressive as your search culture?" And his mindset was, you know, we go in with this all in, you know, we're gonna search searchable space, and we bring them out in the front lawn, and then our EMS is, you know, doing whatever they're doing. And so he talks about matching up that EMS delivery with the operations. And so we're starting to see some of that. But yes, we're still doing it. You know, if anybody wants information on that, I can get it to you. But it's been hugely successful, and we're getting more and more creative. You know, firefighters get bored pretty quick, and so now they're trying to outdo themselves from last spring training. And so we're getting into some. I walk into Firehouse and I'll see pig guts on a table and pig lungs and pig airways, and I'm like, "Are we having barbecue or are we having an EMS class?" I'm not sure what we're doing. So yeah, no, we're still doing it. And we turn it into a whole training season now, to where we have spring training, the training season in which the company officers take over, and then the fall classic or the playoffs is where the battalion chiefs get involved, and we do our battalion drills, and they kind of evaluate all the progress, and then that takes us right into the next spring training. But the men and women of the organization have taken it to a level that I never, ever, ever imagined it could go to.
And do you think that's the ultimate lesson, is if you empower your people, they will impress you?
Well, certainly. There's no. I think I'm holding the organization back now. The organization is so much smarter than I am, and man, you know, you've had great people: Justin Fraze, Garrett Rice, Travis Harden, Sandy. I can go on, and Ross Huber, all those guys. Yeah, they get so creative, and if you allow them to train and train aggressively, and train as close as they can to real life stuff. But the critical thing is, you got to get the organization to where they're training because they believe that their success and survival depend on it, and not because it's a chore coming down from the chief or the ops chief that, you know, we got to get our 4 hours of training in this month, and they don't give a crap what it's about. It's about quality daily training that directly relates to the success and survival of the men and women that are jumping on the rigs and going out the door.
I love
If you can make that connection, great things will happen. As long as training is a chore, a checkbox, a to-do list thing, you're not going to get there.
Hold on, I got to write down this timestamp. Hold on. Okay.
But you think about. Let me add one thing to it.
Go.
Every goal that one of us has right now, whether it is to survive, to make it to retirement, to see our grandkids, to go to Florida, whatever it is. Every one of those goals ties back to training. Because if you're not training, then you're not positioning yourself to achieve those goals. So everything that we hope to do in the future is going to be based on the training that we do today.
Boom. Boom. I love it, man. If someone doesn't say max points, I'll say max points right now. I want to bring this up because I know you want to cover new ground, but there are some things that are so valuable to the fire service. I want to mention it every time you're on and in between. And that is the things you have brought to the fire service for free. That is the formal mentoring for the fire service, a model, and company level training, basic essentials for the suburban fire department, a starter kit for success and survival. These are things you created and put out there and said, hey, give me your email and you can download them for free. That's it. It costs you an email address, correct? Still?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Still fireserviceleadership.com, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So everybody.
And I think we've exceeded 30,000 downloads. I don't know how many fire departments are in America, but my goal was always to get that in every fire department's hands, and then they do what they want with. But, we all talk about leaving it better than we found it, and each of us has our own way of doing that. I don't have the personality, the radio voice, and the motivation that Corley Moore does to write books and do this podcast and have this huge following. So my contribution was a little different, but we all have those things that we're passionate about and the things that we want to leave a mark on the fire service. And, I don't want it to be something with Scott Thompson's name on it. I want to be something that endorses mentoring or training. My name doesn't have to be anywhere attached to it, but if they're referring to those two documents in whatever form or fashion, and they're using it to make the next generation better, then to me, that's a fair contribution.
It's beautiful. And I appreciate humility, Chief. It's one of the things that makes you great, but absolutely. Fireserviceleadership.com. There is the formal guide to mentoring in the fire service and the basic and essentials for the suburban fire department, a starter kit for success and survival, where he breaks down a lot of his training philosophies and he gives it away for free.
The training season's laid out in there. The company preparedness drills, which is what we're doing right now, are in there. And then the mentoring has everything that I believe you need to start. But Corley, I want to add this in here because that thing is kind of turned into a formal mentoring versus traditional mentoring. And I just want to make the point that I have nothing at all against traditional mentoring. We've all benefited from those relationships. But the problem I had with it is not everybody in the organization. If you're not as outgoing, if you're not one of the cool kids, you may get left out of that. And you don't have that mentor. Somebody didn't seek you out or somebody didn't take that time. And so my whole purpose for creating that was just to put something out there so that everybody in the organization can have that great benefit of that mentoring relationship. And some of them will last longer than others, but at least there's somebody to meet you when you walk in the door and say, hey, I'm going to help you navigate this crazy thing that you've gotten into that has 1,000 detours. I'm going to help you navigate the potholes and the things that I've learned I'm going to pass on. And we're going to start off on day one, positioning you for success instead of setting you up for failure.
And I love when you say that is a person who's been allowed to drift towards failure, because that creates such a beautiful vision in my mind of where so many people that I've known in my career. And I'm like, someone is allowed them to drift towards failure.
And we own that. We own that from the fire chief down to that person's senior man or woman. We own that, and shame on us. I hate hearing these excuses. And my first question is, well, what have you done to prevent that or to cultivate that? And if you're not part of the solution, you may not be part of the problem, but you're not making things better. You may not be making them worse, but you're not making them better.
Keeping it status quo.
And those opportunities present themselves every day. Every day, if we look for them, they present themselves.
I'm going to keep it on mission mindset for just a little bit longer because John Shackelford wants to know, what's the hardest part of keeping on task with our mission mindset?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I think it's like anything. Who was it, John?
John,
I think it's like anything. We get bored in the fire service. If we don't see it, if we can't touch it, if we can't drive it, if we can't throw it, if we can't force it, pull a line, we get bored. And things like culture and mission mindset, they're kind of abstract.
Right.
And so it's not that cool, sexy thing. So it's not in front of us all the time. And again, if we're allowed to think about other things, that's when the drift starts. If we're so worried about the policy or procedure that we're going to get in trouble if we don't follow, if it's the project of the month, all those things are pulling at us. But every day, front and center has got to be the mission. And it's got to start with the fire chief. And the fire chief's got to stop saying goofy stuff like we're an EMS department that occasionally goes to fires and fires are down and it's not our emergency and all that. And say the opposite of that. We are the fire professionals. We're the professional risk takers. This community is going to depend on us today to take care of them on their worst day. And it's all how you package things, but there's got to be follow through. Anything that's worth anything takes investment, time, patience, and you just got to stick with it until it the roots form and it takes on its own growth. And that's with anything that has any value. Nothing that's worth a lot comes easy.
Sorry, timestamps, Bray. I have to write them down because I have to write them down. And everybody's saying timestamp. Amen. Amen. Brother, you're killing it.
But Aaron Fields is going to tell you the same thing. Comfort is the enemy of growth. I mean, we're all just saying it a different way, but I think we all agree this is a blue collar job that requires a lot of sweat equity, and the only way you're going to make gains is to go out there and do it.
Boom.
And there's no debating that. There's no debating that. I don't care. And I know a lot of great firemen who don't debate that. So I'm going to take their word that agree with that instead of the ones who try to make excuses why they can't do it.
Beautiful. Enough said. I will switch to D, which is the seat assignments. Ed Berg has a great question coming from the audience, which leads right into this, and you can use that as a launching point. He goes, as we get to seat assignments and deployments, is Chief willing to share how they do the checkoffs for going from engine to the truck and then truck to squad?
Okay. So we'll start with that since the question. So we kind of have a process, and we're really taking it to the next level. So let me give a little background,
yes.
if I can. We're a very average department. When we started a lot of people will call them riding assignments or whatever. We started it when we were a 3-station department, and it was right after I got here. It's because we were getting our ass kicked on these Fox and Jacobs. We just there was too much talking, and our zero impact period was big, and so we came together and thought as a leadership team, how can we minimize that zero impact period, the time from when we pull up and set the parking brake until we start solving the problem. And so we said, we got to show up and we got to do a lot of things simultaneously. We got to go to work. And so we put the first truck company in service. We never had a truck. We were all Quint concept. And I kind of went out to the stations and I tried to make it as unattractive as possible. You're going to get the most of the dirty work. You're going to do the most dangerous stuff. Who wants to volunteer? And there was a long line. And so we kind of started it there. And of course, when you start that, you have nobody experienced in doing it. So we had to take people that had zero truck experience, put them in that role and start training them and turning those events into experience. So that's how it started. Today, typically, and we make some exceptions, like when Bryce Campbell came to us from Bryan, Texas, he'd been riding a truck for years. He was a driver on the truck. He was on the promotion list for lieutenant. He's going to go to the squad or the truck pretty quick because he's got that experience. But in an ordinary situation, you come into the Colony Fire Department, you're going to spend 2 years on an engine. At that point in time, if you have interest in going to the truck, you can communicate that to your officer. And then we kind of have like an interview. We want to make sure that we put like-minded people together. And so we kind of make sure the chemistry there is, the commitment is there. And then we go out and we have some check off lists, some skill stuff. And if you pass all that, then you're put on a list to temporarily ride the truck if a position is open. And then if you prove your commitment, then you'll get placed on there when a permanent spot opens up. Well, we put the squad in service when we opened Firehouse 4, and we kind of repeated the same thing. So now to get on the squad, you spend 2 years on an engine, 2 years on the truck, and then you can put in to go to the squad, which the squad does engine and truck work. It's kind of a New York style squad. So those are kind of the processes. And we're working on task books constantly of, forcible entry, search, ventilation, utility control, the airbags, the hydraulic tools, and trying to, and again, I'm going to mention Aaron Fields, his method of learning, 3 to 5 things that we can give you that kind of grasp. And we start out at the technique level and we advance to the strategic level. And so that's kind of how it's set up and how it kind of started. But to get back to D in riding positions, there's science behind it or data. And if you think about it, we're the professionals in our community.
Right.
And there's a reason why in a professional football team or baseball team or whatever sport you follow, that the coach doesn't go before the game, okay, who wants to play what position, right? That would never work. And so if you buy into survival stress reaction and the studies on performance, that what you're comfortable with starts to build that confidence level, and you start to become more proficient in those skills. So with riding assignments and deployment assignments, you can start preparing for those things at shift change at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you take ownership of those tools of that riding position. And so that's the first part of it is you start to mentally get in the game and say, okay, if we have that career event today, I know the things that I have to address. And we use the word address. You're going to address search, you're going to address fire attack, you're going to address ventilation. And that lets the incident commander know that those things are going to get addressed. And it's that job description. But it's so much more. It minimizes anxiety so that people can focus on the big picture instead of the small stuff that, oh, where's the saw? How do I start this saw? Or, all those kind of things. In the event that you get in a bind, you get jammed up and you think your well-being is threatened and your anxiety starts to go up, you can find comfort in knowing that position and knowing, how the system is going to react. So all those things play into it. But one of the interesting things that we have found, we've been doing it for a long time, but the more people we hire as they come into the organization, they're really attracted to that. They like to know if they're going to be riding an engine and truck. So we ask that question, well, why is that? And they want to get really good at it. They want to get comfortable. And so I gave you in a very short time some of the background on why we went to it. Now I'm going to ask a question. For those of you that don't do it, what is the reason for it? What is the science behind it? And the answer is going to be, well, it's an ass in a seat. And that's how the fire service works. Hey, Firehouse 10 has somebody that called in sick. Firehouse 2 has an extra body. Send that extra body from Firehouse 2 to Firehouse 10. Problem over.
Right.
Well, it could be in a different part of town. It could be going from riding an engine to riding a truck. And we just assume that we're all plug and play. Think about the insanity of what I just said. Playing it out like that, there is no connection to success other than luck. But the way the fire service thinks.
That's a brutal statement of honesty right there.
But this is how the fire service thinks. You get a guy who's ridden an engine for the last 5 years, and now he gets either overtime or swung out to a truck house. And he goes to the roof tonight and falls through the roof. The fire service goes, oh, he never should have been on the roof. Vertical vent is too dangerous. That is 100% wrong. We put a person that was not recently rehearsed in a high-risk position, and they failed. What were we expecting to happen? Somebody with a magic carpet to come sweep under them and help them be successful? We were relying on luck. And it is brutal. But I hear chiefs all the time, well, that'll never work for us. Well, that'll. And I ask why. Well, it's too much trouble for the battalion chief in the morning to make sure that those people fit in those places. We did it with 3 stations with 13 members on duty per shift. Now we have 5. Our truck and our engine guys switch off, or our squad and our truck guys, they're all interchangeable, plug and play. Our engine guys all switch out. They all the engine guys can ride the engine, the truck squad, and ride the truck and squad. And very rarely do they cross over, and it works really well. But I can tell you this: if we go to the roof tonight in the Colony, Texas, I can go to bed knowing that whoever does that is recently rehearsed, well trained, and experienced in doing that.
Mm. And that honestly, man, that plays into so much stuff, including moral injury. Not just as you as the fire chief sitting behind the desk, but just across the board when you put your head down at night.
To me, it's just crazy. This everybody, and we got fire suppression and fire rescue. We have the medical part of it. We have all the stuff we do in between, from smoke detectors to checking electrical circuits, blah blah blah. Then we throw in hazmat, trench, high angle, all these other things we add on, and I don't mean this to belittle anybody, but this is the way we is. We bring somebody in who has a high school education or a couple years of college, who wants to get into a blue collar job, and we expect them to be brain surgeons, rocket scientists, race car drivers, all these high risk things, be able to do all of that. Well, there's no other occupation, sporting event, musical instrument, whatever, that's ever proven to be true. The fire service is the only one who ever thinks that works. And I'll tell you where that really hit home with me. And I may have told this story before, and I apologize if I'm repeating it, but I was new to the colony here, and we had a 4th of July event. And one of the cops, the entire event was leaning on the tailgate of a truck. So we like to bust each other's chops. And I go, wow, you're really learning, you're earning your overtime today, aren't you? And he goes, I'm here for one reason and one reason only, in case the long gun has to come out. That was his tool. You don't want the new cop on the street to pull out a sniper rifle and start shooting people, right? That's insanity. Yet in the fire service will say, hey, yeah, go to the roof. It's no big deal. You'll figure it out when you get up there.
That's a beautiful story. I don't know if you've told that on the scrap. Of course, my memory's terrible, so don't let me be the judge. So
well,
I love
mine. I may have told to you yesterday and forgot about it. But
right,
but
that's my beauty. That's the best part of being my friend. You can tell me the story tomorrow, and I'll think it's a new story.
But I'm very, very passionate about it, and I really think we're on the verge of really challenging the human mind in high risk situations with very extreme time constraints, with often incorrect information. And we want our people to make sense of all that in 45 seconds. Say that out loud, and it just sounds crazy.
Yes.
And yet, how the majority of the American fire service operates.
And part of it that plays into it, Chief, I think, is really the fact that probably I don't want to throw a percentage, but for a high percentage of the time, it won't bite anybody in the ass. And they'll finish their career, and it won't bite a high percentage in the ass. But
the other part of that, Corley, is that we don't even look at that. We find 1,000 other reasons to blame it on, and nobody. I mean, when's the last time you read a line of duty death report that says that firefighter hadn't been on a roof in the last 14 years, and he was put on a roof and he failed? We don't even enter that into the LODD investigation formula, because that's how the fire service operates. But and you're a battalion chief, and I'm not taking digs in any organization, but if you ask a battalion chief, what is the reasoning behind how you do staffing every morning, you'll be amazed what you hear, because it's easy. That's the way we've always done it.
No, you're holding up a mirror to my organization and my own staff. I do staffing every time I report to duty, and almost embarrassed to say, as we have this conversation, I need that seat in that butt over there, irregardless of what he's prepared for and doing.
That's the American Fire Service. You're in the majority. I'm in the minority. I get kicked all the time about that. Oh, you think you're FDNY and blah blah blah. I get rocks thrown at me all the time, and nobody around us, Louisville kind of does. But I don't understand, and if nobody will enter into a good debate as to why they do it the way they do, other than that it's just easy for staffing, and it's the way we've always done it.
Yeah. And Rob Fisher's chiming in. Rob, welcome. He said, when it bites us in the ass, it's the building or the firefighter. Training, staffing, or doing too much is rarely the focus. So it's great.
Hi, Rob.
I got to hug his neck this morning. So I hugged him this morning, talking to Scott Thompson tonight. My life. When I tell people I'm the luckiest dude in the fire service, I think they think I'm exaggerating. But Chief Thompson, this comes from Micro Osome. He said, Chief, how do we introduce our new people? New people have the power to be. Man, Marco, reword the question. I'm not sure. I'm going to delete it and come back to it because I wasn't quite sure what you were after. Reword it, send it. I will re-ask it. Joe Gavita wants to know, I love this question, coming at you. I'm not sure we've asked you. How often are you in your firehouse talking to your members? What's your metric? What's your algorithm?
Well, I got what I call Firehouse Friday. Um, so I'm in some firehouses more than others. I'm housed with Engine 11 and Battalion 1. So I started off this year doing what I call Firehouse Fridays. So there's a balance there. The fire chief needs to be in the firehouse, but not in the firehouse too much. So my plan for this year, because I let too many other things become more important, and I wasn't getting in the firehouse enough. So I started out this first quarter. I visited just about every firehouse in the first quarter. Now I'm letting a couple Fridays go by, or I'd be in there way too much. But I just did what I call the why tour, and I went to all the firehouses, and I went in. I said, "Ask me why we do anything that we're doing." I'm not saying I'm going to change my mind. I'm not saying we're even going to debate it, but everybody in the organization is an adult, and you have the right to know why we're doing what we're doing. And so, I talk to the crew at Firehouse 1 all the time. I go to Firehouse 4 a lot because we got a lot going on there. So I talk to those crews. I don't get up to Firehouse 5 as much. I try to get to every firehouse at least quarterly. Some I'll see a lot more, but I try to at least once a quarter get to the firehouse. And I leave my Fridays open. I work a half day on Friday, so I come in at 7 and I'll leave at 11 or 12. So I'll try to catch two firehouses during that time. And I try not to come in with a heavy agenda. I just want to hear how everybody's doing and what's on their mind. And so I probably should be in the firehouse more, but I got a lot of other things to do. I hate to use that as an excuse, but my ops chief is doing a good job of getting in the firehouses, and he's kind of my conduit of what's going on and what do I need to hear or what do I need to be paying attention to.
I love the intentionality. I love it. Both ways. The intentionality of not doing it too much and the intentionality of making it happen. And I'm telling you, like you said, we both reference Aaron Fields quite often. You've referenced him a few times tonight, and that comfort is the enemy of growth. The complacency is so easy to sink into and just forget how important it is to take the time to make sure your priorities are not out of whack.
Yep.
I love it. Great question, Joe. Thank you for asking. Great answer, Chief. Isaac B coming at you. Isaac B, is that I think he told us who he was. Is that Bull? But Isaac B wants to know, question, what is your take on OSHA's push to put 2 out and now a 4-person RIC ahead of the mission? It's one thing to get the fire service back to the mission mindset, but another when it's OSHA. And I don't know, where that's coming. I don't know. I've not followed if there's a big push or anything like that. So please inform me of my ignorance. So go ahead, Chief.
I got to think this out because I don't want to let any big cat out of a bag, but I'm working with a group of very reputable fire service warriors who were working to change all that altogether. And we've been working on it for about the last 8 months. And I think timing is going to come up. Personally, I'm not a fan of 2 in, 2 out. I'm not a fan of 4 in, 4 out. And I think all you got to do is look back at Project Mayday and what Don Abbott was doing and the number of Maydays that are resolved with a rapid intervention crew or team versus interior crews. It's like 11% to 34, 36%. I was in the fire service when 2 in, 2 out became a thing. And it was really, I believe, initially a ploy to increase staffing. That didn't happen. More times than not, it takes seconds away from those we were sworn to protect. It increases our zero impact period. And I just don't see a high return on where it's paying those dividends and saving firefighters. And when somebody can show me that data, granted, we live in a what if world. We talk about possibilities, probabilities, and certainties. But when somebody can tell me that it's more valuable to have those people outside than it is having them inside. I love what Houston does. They call it an interior RIT.
Right.
And they have that second hose line, and that second hose line can always see the first hose line. And if that first hose line makes the turn, that second does. There's a smarter way to do this. So if you're asking me what I think about it, I'm not a fan of it. They haven't sold me on it. I'm very curious to see where it's going to go. And if anybody will listen to what I have to say, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to change it and discourage it and maybe go back to a different way.
I'm so excited for what you guys got working for the last 8 months, and yeah, I'm hoping, yeah,
Got a lot of
everybody.
smart people working on it. Unfortunately, the ball's in my court now, so I got to step up and do my part. But these guys have taken it very seriously. I don't know where they are with their organization, so I don't want to mention any
Right.
names because there's people who don't agree with us. Um, but to me, it's just another excuse uh, to keep us from getting more involved with solving the fire and rescue problem.
Boom. All right, pulling up the notes. We covered the mission mindset. We covered writing position and deployment responsibilities. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to. I don't know which was the next highest rated on the poll, so I'm going to pick which one I want to talk about. And I have a ton of questions to get to. Are we breeding aggression out of firefighters?
Yeah, absolutely. And I put this in here. I wrote an article about that, I think like in 2016. And from the day you walk into the academy, and it lasts sometimes a career, we're 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 not representing accurately what this job is all about, what it entails, the sacrifices that it requires, the expectation of the community. We're trying to make this a job for everybody, and it's not a job for everybody. We're trying, we're so desperate for people that we're lowering the standards and we're saying, hey, we just need a warm body. And that's not my fire service. I find that insulting. I think this is a profession that requires a dedicated, motivated, hardworking person who believes in what they're doing, who is going to work hard. And yes, if they have to take some extreme risks, they're going to be positioned mentally, physically, mechanically, and procedurally to do that. But they know that going in. And I think day one of the academy doesn't need to be about anything other than, do you realize what you're getting into? This is big time stuff. You can lose your career to an injury. You can lose your life in a heartbeat. Do you understand? I have a statement included in that mentoring packet of what we're trying to get out to all of our day one employees. We call it the power of day one, that asks that question. But we are giving our firefighters every excuse in the world to not be firefighters. With all these things we're doing, we're saying, oh yeah, that's not our emergency, that's this, don't worry about this, don't. And it's a smoke and mirror game. Let me tell you, and I will talk to any chief on the planet who wants to have this discussion. Go talk to your citizens, the people who fund us, the reason why we exist, and ask them what they expect of their fire department, and they will tell you. And it is, if my home is burning, get your trained professional ass in there, search for my baby, and put the fire out and protect my baby pictures. End of story. I hope your guys don't get hurt, but if they do, you signed up for the job, you trained for it, you charge an incredible amount of money for protective equipment. That's the deal we make. Tell me where we come off the track with that. And it goes back to the mission mindset.
There's a lot of people on the Scott Thompson drinking game, as they say, max points, timestamp. Absolutely crushing it, brother. That is one of the.
I mean, where are we missing that? I hope somebody listening would ask, where are we missing? Yeah, all the other stuff, the community risk reduction, all of that is complementary. But the reason why we have firehouses spread throughout the community, why we back our fire trucks in, why we hang our gear on the door, why we have cross lays and speed lays or whatever you want to call them, so we can get out the door, get there, and start solving the problem. And these people who are trying to pull us away from that is because they're not comfortable doing the job. And so they're looking for excuses to get less involved instead of finding reasons and using the data and science to get more involved with solving fire and rescue problems. And I've said this before, if you think about it, the largest investment in any fire department organization is in fire suppression and fire rescue capability. I have not found an organization yet that has proven to be untrue. So if the greatest investment that the community is making in us is our ability to fight fire and go in and look for people, that better be damn close to the top of the list of our priorities and our mission, or we're a bad investment in an unsustainable position.
I don't know what else to say. I just gotta throw them up and say, brother.
But
Uh,
how did we drift from that?
I
How
don't.
did we get we're the freaking fire department. We are there to go get dirty and get in hazardous places, and that's why we buy the stuff we do and train the way we do. I mean, I just don't get it.
Which brings me. I don't know if I brought this up before. Again,
You're
uh,
getting me wound up tonight. You usually
I
don't
love
get
it.
me wound up, but I'm wound up tonight.
No, you're killing it. You were absolutely killing it. You made a post. I don't know. It was probably 2017. Might have been a little more recent. And it's a bunch of beat up ladders laying out behind a fire station. One of my favorite posts of all time, brother. I don't know if I've asked you that question before, so I'm going to ask you now. Explain your mindset towards those ladders.
All right. So there's a little bit of a backstory to it.
Okay.
We got a great EVT. He's leaving to go to Parker County, so we're going to lose him. But we got one of the best EVTs in the country, Brandon Poe.
EVT.
Yeah, emergency vehicle technician.
Okay. Okay.
Brandon Poe. This guy's a rock star, man. So I go out to and we train a lot, and we throw a lot of ladders on fires. I mean, we're throwing ladders either in training or even precautionary on fires. We're trying to get that as part of our culture. And so I go out to Fleet to check on our stuff, and I see all these ladders. I mean, there was 25 of them. And I said, Brandon, I said, what are these? He said, we just tested the ladders, and these are all the ladders that are out of service. And I went, holy cow. So initially, what are most chiefs going to think? Initially, they're going to go with their gut. Oh, shit, we got to stop this.
Oh yeah.
This is going to cost too much money. I got to buy new ladders. This is
Right.
unacceptable.
This is
So
unacceptable.
that went through my mind immediately. That was the first reaction. But then I caught myself and I said, wait a minute. How did these ladders get in this condition? They're not driving over them. They're not using them as seesaws. They're not, using them for anything other than they were intended to do. They're throwing them. They're throwing them in training, and they're throwing them on fires. Maybe we're not the best at it. Maybe we're a little rough with them and we tear them up. Maybe there's some people that are a little bit more, gentle on throwing their ladders. But I know that every one of those ladders got in the condition that they were in because of hard work and with the best intentions. There was no negligence. Those guys went out and did what I wanted them to do, work hard and get good at their craft. And as a result, they tore some stuff up. And man, it wasn't planned, but it played out perfectly. My council member, all of them, it wasn't, oh, we're spending too much with ladders. It was, hey, go thank your guys for putting in the effort.
Right.
But there's two ways of thinking of that.
I'm telling you, man. It almost makes it does make my eyes water when you say that, Chief. I absolutely love.
But right,
that
there's two reactions to everything, Corley. It's like the difference between saying yes or saying no. You'll go out and you do a week long of firefighter survival drills, and somebody tears their bunker pants or tears a buckle off, a D-ring off their coat, and Chief says, okay, we're going to stop all that training. My gosh, we can't afford to sew our gear. We got to stop. We're just not going to do that anymore. Imagine if our military had that mindset.
Right. No, absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying we should kill guys in training, but we need to push our guys in training. We need to get as close to reality as possible. And if we're going to do that, some stuff's going to get broken and some guys are going to get injured. Not saying it's okay, but we learn from those events. We learn in training how we tear stuff up and how we hurt people, so we have a greater level of awareness when we're doing it for real.
And, again, I'm just going down a rabbit hole here because I love talking to you, and this is what me and you do. But have you noticed when you embrace saying, "Hey, I understand these ladders got tore up because you guys are doing what you do. Thank you for doing it." When you embrace that path instead of the other path, have you noticed a better buy-in to the training, and even a reciprocal, like, we're going to take good care of this because you believe in us type? Or is that too much to ask? Is that too pie in the sky?
No, I think there's too many things to figure. Now, first, let's get this out of there. I'm in no way a perfect chief or a perfect leader. Every one of my guys can tell you faults with me and things they wish I did differently. So I don't want to give that impression at all. I don't think my guys, when they go out to train, they worry about breaking stuff. I don't think that's the first thing on their mind. I don't think, oh man, well, you need to dial this down a notch because we might tear or break something up.
Sure.
I think because my guys are allowed to do that they're a better firefighter because they're allowed to push it to the edge. I trust my people. I believe they understand the difference between doing what's necessary to get better and being reckless and careless. And so, part of it's the culture. I just think there's a lot of things that go into that. But one thing I can say is that our culture has fully embraced training and doing things on fire alarms or food on the stove that a lot of other departments would say are unnecessary, but they get those sets and reps in. We're a suburban department. We get it when we can. And so I don't know if our guys are taking more ownership, but they're not afraid. And
Right.
I think you balance those, they're not worrying about getting in trouble. And so I think that's one of the things that you remove from that whole deal.
Last thing
Did
I'll
that
say.
answer your question?
No, no, it did. It did. Absolutely. And this is the last thing I'll say on it because I really want to dig the fact that I believe you 100% when you say there are people in your department that do not appreciate the chief that they have. I'll put it that's probably a nice, polite way of saying it, right? You have Scott Thompson dislikers.
Oh, there's probably 86 of them
But
out of
my point is
87.
this: we need to start a fire service exchange program to let people understand exactly what they're serving under, to kind of bring that snap that perspective back into place.
No,
Again,
we all have our faults. I'm just blessed that I got so many hard chargers, and they're just they like I say they're so much smarter than I am, and they've taken these little things that I've thought about and turned them into reality and done great. I mean, I could go on all day and just talk about some of the great stuff our guys do, and it's all starts in the firehouse. But I've also been here a long time. I'm getting kind of stale, the old man. I don't have any more tricks up my sleeve. And so, all those things, we know each other too well. It's like a 15-year marriage, right? We know each other's faults, and it is what it is.
right on. No, I think the fire service exchange program might be the key. Might be the key to breaking that stalemate. It might even be something where the Chiefs swap out and see, holy crap, I got it really good too. It's just a perspective swap.
Just like an NFL draft, you're a free agent. Let's see who's going to pay you. I'll pay you 2-year money to come to my department, or I'll pay you hazard pay to go work for this chief,
Right
or
on.
whatever it is.
I love it. Okay, this was one that I absolutely love. Are you good right now? We're already an hour in. Are you good?
Oh man, I'm great. I still
Okay.
got stuff in my cup.
Okay. And someone asked, what's in the coffee cup, Chief? You can answer or not answer at your leisure. But mine is the hypocrisy of the fire service. This is very vague as far as the topic, but I really love the title.
How many fire chiefs, firefighters, have you heard use the word that EMS is a majority of what we do?
No, it's a
Would
it's
you
a
say a
mantra.
lot?
Oh, a lot.
Huh? A lot, right? And so maybe that is the case. So we go to more EMS calls than we do fires. All right, we'll all agree to that. I get it. Who do we put on the ambulance? Our newest, most inexperienced people. So if we're saying it's the majority of what we do, we put our least experienced, newest people on there because nobody else wants to ride the ambulance.
Right.
Isn't that not a hypocrisy? It's the most important thing we do, yet we're putting people on there who would rather have their toenails pulled out than be assigned to that for 24 hours. Yet that's how we work. Then we have those leaders that say, fires are down, right? We don't go to fires anymore. They're still buying $1 million fire trucks. They're still buying thermal imagers. They're still fully equipping. So their actions don't match their words. If they believe that fires are down and that we don't have this problem or whatever, why are they not reducing their capabilities? Because they don't believe it. They know that they got to be ready for that career event, right? It'd be career suicide. But what I'm saying is we make these statements because we want to look progressive. We want to look, there's so many chiefs out there who fighting fire is 27th on their list of things that are important. Yet their actions, when it comes to money, when it comes to talking to the community, don't support that. So I call it a hypocrisy. There's a conflict between what we say and what we actually do. And there's just, I see more and more examples. I'll give you another one. Why do the fire chiefs that are spending so much time, and I got 2 boys on the job, but the clean cab thing, data came out, hey, there's dirt in cabs, so all these chiefs jump on the bandwagon and go to clean cabs. all these things we're doing for mental health, which are important. I get it. But why aren't we giving the same attention to the firefighter rescue survey, Project Mayday, and what UL's doing? I mentioned that in my keynote. If you're gonna follow the data, follow all of it. Don't pick and choose
Right.
what you're comfortable with. Don't just go after the low-hanging fruit. You're the freaking chief of the department. You should take more risks than anybody because you're the boss. Now, that may not be in terms of searching or going to the roof, but it's empowering your people to do those things. So don't take the easy way out, Chief. Don't default to no. Have the courage to do what's best for your citizens and for the members in your organization.
I love the scrap, brother.
And maybe I didn't title that the right way, but that's how I look at it. We say one thing and we do something different. And if we're going to follow the data, fine, follow all the data. Don't pick and choose.
It goes right in with the keynote. I really do love it, brother. I really do. Dan Benderson,
I don't understand it.
All right, I'm gonna get the audience back in here because I've been doing what I do, which is love having a conversation with you.
Let's answer some questions.
I like this one coming from Miles. This is one of those we get a lot. Miles Cameron wants to know, what single piece of advice would you give to a first-year firefighter in BFE with little to no local resources? I've been online educating as much as possible, but I know I'm missing so much. Thank you for the question, Miles.
Miles, I'm going to give you some good news and some bad news. But if you're in BFE and you have little resources, you got to be better than all of us. I can mess up 5 alarms and still get help, and I've proven that. I've done it. I have burnt buildings from one end to the other, and I've just called for more help. If you're out there by yourself with limited resources, you got to be a more efficient incident commander. You got to be better at reading the building and reading conditions that I have to. So the easy answer is, man, you got to become a student. Listen to the scrap, listen to other podcasts, read the books, seek out those people who have similar situations, who have a little more time doing it, and ask them how they're successful. Don't be afraid to try new things. I've said this before on the scrap. The fire service is still very much a frontier. And I say that because we can't agree on the best way to do anything.
Yeah.
So we're still discovering. We're still in a discovery phase. We haven't figured out the best way yet. So wherever you are, brother, is it Miles?
Miles,
that's the name of one of my grandsons, so I should remember that. So Miles, man, figure out the best way. You can come up with a solution, but be a student of this. And no matter where you are, and I have found this true, the fire service will give you back whatever you put into it. If you go in as a hard charger, this is going to be the most rewarding thing. You know, I never in a million years thought I'd be doing a keynote at FDIC, and I've sat in that audience and I've heard the biggest names in the fire service. But I think David Rhodes will agree with me. One of the reasons I got tapped to do that is because I don't buy into the status quo. I challenge the status quo. I'm always asking if there's a better way. And I think that's what the fire service needs. It needs more diverse thinking and not more alike thinking. And so, I mean, I would just say, man, just take advantage of every opportunity to learn and then to go out and practice what you've learned. And through that, you are going to learn things and then share it with the next generation so that your knowledge and experience is not lost and walk out the door when you do.
Boom. I love it. And there is no better time in the fire service. There's so much information available now that was not. And everything has a downside. Don't get me wrong. You have to figure out what is viable information and you have to vet it. But there is so much available.
Vet everything. Everything I say.
Yes.
Don't, you know, that's something that I worry about is we have these, and they're not bad people, but we have these cliques developing and we have these loyal followers just because you're a cool dude, you know, whatever. You know, and Cody Trestrail says it the best. He said he's met some really great firemen in the hood and he knows some really crappy firemen that work in the hood. So just because you're a hood fireman doesn't mean you're a good fireman. All right. So seek out those people who have actually experienced it. They haven't just heard about it and you know, get in those people's brains and figure out the lessons that they've learned so you don't make the same mistakes and that you get that advantage. And that's, you can live on the moon and still learn a lot about firefight.
That's it.
You won't have the experience, but you'll have the educational part of it or the knowledge part. Then you got to go out and practice it. apply what you've learned.
Boom. Thank you for the great question. Michael Hapke wants to know, how do you remind those who have forgotten our mission and ridicule you for believing in the mission?
Well, the first thing is, Michael, don't worry about the people that ridicule you. You got it. You got it. Don't even let that enter into the equation. And it, if you believe in it, if you vetted it, if you studied it, and if you lived it, if you experienced, you've gone out and done it, and it's proven true, then don't back off. Don't back off, and control the controllables. And we've said that a bunch of times. So many firefighters are worried about changing everybody else. Just worry about yourself. Just be the best version of yourself. I don't know if I've told this on the scrap, but when my son was in Dallas, the first year you go to the great fire companies, and he was in Battalion 5, went to a great engine company. His officer invested in him. They trained all the time, made a lot of calls. And then when you go into the bid pool, you go to the worst firehouses. Well, he went to a gem of a firehouse, probably the worst firehouse I've ever walked into, where basically the captain and lieutenant said, I don't know why they're sending us these effing rookies. We're not going to work with them, and we're not going to train them. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you're talking about my son. And my advice to Braden was, man, just keep doing what you're doing, and somebody will pluck you out of this mess. And so, well, he was out there throwing ladders and pulling lines, and they were sitting in the shade drinking iced tea and heckling them. He was going out there. The captain of Truck 36 happened to come by and see him out there doing that. He was out of there the next day and went to a solid truck company. So just keep being you, man, and don't worry about everybody else. Don't we're so worried about changing our chiefs and our captains. Let's just make ourselves something that other people want to follow. Now, don't be obnoxious. Don't throw it in people's face. Have this humble confidence and just go out. And if you're successful, if somebody sees you throw a ladder, a one-person throw, or sees you force that door, and they say, hey, show me how you did that. Share it, teach it to them, help them be successful. And one by one, they're going to come over to your side. The ones that are worth it, the mutts aren't, and you can't worry about them.
Boom. And I'm gonna quote a guy that was on scrap number 64 a few years ago. He said, man, you just got to grow big shoulders and thick skin and say, I'm doing it for the right reason, and let the haters hate. And that was Scott Thompson on episode 64.
The day that I stopped worrying about what everybody else thinks as a fire chief, and just as a personality like everybody else in this job, so many things became so much clearer. You understand things better because you're not worried about how other people are going to measure you or what you're going to think. But you can't be arrogant. You can't be false. You can't just regurgitate something that you heard. You got to put in the hard work, and you got to learn it, and you got to do it. And you got to be able to demonstrate it, and you got to be able to critique it and pick it apart and figure out how to do it a little better. If you're doing that, you're not going to go wrong. And don't let the guy with his fat ass in the recliner tell you any different.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Looking at it, Brandon Rodriguez says, using your mentorship guidelines / free resource, what would you tell a junior firefighter to help get them to push it up the chain? How do you lead up? How do you punch up, Chief?
Well, first of all, don't ever go in there and say everybody or nobody, because the fire service and any fire department never agreed on one thing agreed on. So don't go in there and say everybody thinks this or nobody thinks that. Number two, don't go in and say Scott Thompson said this, because your chief is going to shut it off right away. What you're going to do, what you need to do is study it and look at your organization and bring forward an argument, a debate that says, Chief, this is going to make us better. It's not going to cost any more money. And in a time when it's hard to get and retain people, I believe this is an action step that's going to help us do both. And I will help you do whatever you can to get it implemented. I'll be in charge of it. You just support me and we'll get it done. And if it doesn't work, you'll never hear anything out of me again.
Beautiful. I love it.
It's hard to turn down somebody who comes to you with a well thought out idea. Now, a lot of times you get a lot of just blah, blah, blah through the door,
Sure,
right?
sure.
They can point out all the problems, but they don't have any idea of a solution. But if I don't care if it's the newest member of the department, if they have the courage to come into my office and they took the time to do the research and to put together a presentation, and they had the courage to come in and know that they could get turned down, Man, I've got to respect that. And I've got to believe any chief would. Now, understand, there's chiefs out there whose default answer is no.
Right.
And you just got to live with that. You just got to be okay with that. It's no reflection on you. It's just chiefs are more about risk avoidance than they are risk acceptance. And they like to say no because that limits their exposure. And I don't know what you do about that.
Well, I mean, and you hit on it. Like, do your prep work, and before,
Yeah.
if you know, I mean, a lot of people. Let's be honest. A lot of people go in there expecting their chief to say no, and then get vindicated when they say no, and then go back and say I tried and throw up their hands and wear their badge of honor of fighting the chief. But if you know his inclination is to say no, then your, I won't say job, but your challenge is to figure out a way to take away the no's so that you can give him the best possible chance to say yes. And he still may say no, but
he's also going to want to know, how serious are you about it?
right.
He's going to look at your track record. Are you somebody who comes in all the time with ideas and never has any follow through?
Sure.
You know, if somebody that I haven't heard from in 2 years, who I know is a solid fireman, comes in with an idea, I'm going to give him my full attention, with the understanding that I'll give it thought, I'll give it consideration. We may not change anything, but you would have to be an awful egotistical chief if you shut those people down and you don't even give them the time to speak their. But there's a lot of them out there. I don't. What do you do about that? I don't know.
Yeah, you fix that. Hey, that's a bestseller. Speaking of which, someone asked earlier, and I don't have it here. I don't know if I have it in my notes. Someone asked, John Velez wanted to know, Chief, will you be writing any more books?
Yeah. But I don't know exactly. I don't know. I'm working on a system approach, and I hate to say that because that sounds like we're going into the private sector. But I'm really looking at systems and processes and how we bring the organization together, where we can get all the shifts and battalions and so forth focused on the mission, focused on the chosen culture. And I want to make, it's going to be more of a textbook, I think. So that's one thing I've kind of started on one project. The other side of it, and you know this, but I've also thought about trying to share some things that I have found that have worked for me in the fire service, and maybe sharing that with the private sector, because I think a lot of the private sector, especially in this day and time, can learn a lot from the fire service. It used to be the other way around. We used to have fire chiefs that were trying to learn, but I think the fire service now has much more to offer the private sector than the private sector does us. We have done so much with leadership and efficiencies and operational philosophies and all those things that I think right now the fire service is kind of on the cutting edge of manual labor and solving problems. And that's a really cool thing in this day and age, because, you know, most counselors will tell you now the number one job that kids coming out of high school want is to be influencers. And so we're kind of that last hold of the hardworking welders, carpenters, electricians.
Sure.
You know, anything that Mike Rowe talks about, we got to protect that.
Yeah.
And we got to be very cautious to move too quickly towards being white collar. We don't ever want to lose our blue collar roots. And there's a lot of chiefs pushing for it.
Yeah, you're correct. That's why Chief Thompson goes to firefighter conferences and not chief conferences.
My fire service is blue collar, and it always will be.
Fill the Box podcast wants to know, what is your motivation, daily, long term? Is this the same as early in your career, or has it changed along the way?
No, it changed. It changes every position because more responsibility. I've always wanted to be a firefighter. I've always believed in what firefighters stand for, the good ones. And I hate to keep going back to my keynote, but the keynote represents 20 minutes of what I believe in. My motivation today are my sons that are firefighters and my grandbabies that have the potential to be fire victims. And I tell you, I've never had anything be more of a motivator in my life. If every firefighter and every fire chief would make risk avoidance and risk acceptance personal, put faces to it, your loved ones, this whole thing looks different. This whole thing. How dare me say that the Colony Fire Department is not going to take risks when I got 5 grandbabies that I would expect the freaking superheroes to show up on and do a kick-ass, bang-up job. How dare me do anything less for the citizens here? And I will have that conversation with any fire service leader out there. If your loved one, if you're not providing the service that you would expect your loved ones to receive, shame on you. And that goes for all the mutts in the firehouse.
One of my favorite parts of every one of your presentations, and you usually close with it in some way, shape, or form, or it's near the end, is when you throw up your sons on the job and say, "I want you to understand, as a fire chief, I make my decisions based on would I want my sons operating under this." I love that, brother. I love that.
And I would be so disappointed if they didn't share the same mindset, if they didn't have a mission mindset. Um, we're protectors of society. There's no our purpose. We exist to save lives and protect property. There's no debating that. There's a lot of things that we do on the peripheral to support that. You know, we can throw prevent problems in there and all that, but I would not say anything on this podcast or any other podcast. And I've gotten a little more wind up than I usually do. I got chicken cock bourbon in here, by the way.
Okay.
And that's the true name of it. And if you've never had it, it's nice. So I'm a little wound up. I got my best bud in town. We've been having a good time today.
He can come on. He can come on and say hello also.
No, he's tapped out.
Okay. Okay.
But how dare me as a fire chief have a double standard of saying I'm not going to provide the same protection to you that I would expect to come to me. And I would not say anything to anybody listening that I would not be 100% okay with my sons being governed by. Brett Stidham is a new fire chief in Arlington, Texas. He came from Dallas, and I know he's going to push that organization right up to the point of being reckless. He's going to make them aggressively safe. He's going to make them aggressively functional. And they're going to show up, and they're going to do their job, and they're going to give their best effort. And those people are at least going to have hope. We can't promise we can save everybody or save every building, but by golly, we better give them hope that every effort was made to do both.
Love it. I absolutely, and that, like I said, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's one of my favorite part of every one of your presentations. Rob Fisher said headed to Patty's.
I say that to make. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Rob Fisher said he headed to Patty's live, so I said I have to say go enjoy Patty's. If you know, you know. Rob Fisher said, "Chief, you're one of the best. Thank you for what you do and stand for. You're one in a million." So I wanted to get that to you.
Thank you, Rob. I love you, brother. Anyways,
go ahead.
I throw that in there because I get accused of not caring about firefighters, and I'm too overly aggressive in my mindset and this and that. No, that's not the case at all because it's very personal to me, and that's why I mention it. I love my boys. I'm proud of them, but it's very, very personal to me. And if you have those connections, then that takes on a whole new light and a whole different motivation and a whole different level of responsibility. I would not put anybody in the Colony Fire Department in a position that I would not put my sons in.
No, and it's powerful. It's powerful. Alan Gogowski said, "You are a Mount Rushmore chief." John Shackelford said, "Chicken cock bourbon is a great drink, chief." So there you go. Validation from two fronts. All right. I love the question. Thank you, Fill the Box Podcast, for the question. I love this one. I've never heard this one before being thrown at you. But Gregory Van Ham wants to know, Chief, what has been your best achievement as a chief of the colony?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like that question. Thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Well, I can't think of any one thing that I can take full credit for. I think the thing that repeat the question again.
What has been your best achievement as the chief of the colony?
That we collectively have created an environment that has attracted some phenomenal firemen and kept some phenomenal firemen. And you've had many of them on your show, many of them go around the country teaching. So I think whatever it is that attracted them to the colony, whoever was responsible for that, I'm just glad I was smart enough not to shut it down.
Has the colony had the most on the scrap? I'm honestly thinking about this right now in my head.
I don't know. You've had Fraze. You had Garrett
Rice, Thompson. Oklahoma City, they're in my backyard. I've had quite a few from Oklahoma City. Yeah. So I had Dane Yaw, J-Lo, Mike Pascal, Mike Walker.
Yeah, so you have more but suburban department. We got to be the suburban department.
You got to be the suburban leader. You got to be the most with the 5 stations.
Yeah, but
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to derail it. You made me think of that, though. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, all those guys do it, though, because they share the mindset. They believe in the mission, and they want to make this better than it is, that it can be. And they go out and they just, they share their piece of influence in hoping to inspire other people to to be able to do the same thing. I'm super. Oh, have you had Jeff Luce on? He goes
No,
around.
yeah, Luce is awesome, but he hasn't been on the scrap. He's
But
one that should be.
these guys have just all they've done is bought into what we're all trying to sell, and that is make the mission the priority. They believe in this engine and truck deployment model. They believe in what they're doing, and so if anything, hopefully I just put a vision out there and enough why that people bought into it, and that's as far as I can go because they've taken it from there. So maybe putting a vision out there that people that good firemen bought into.
I love the humility of your answer.
Well, I mean,
I,
it's the truth, though, and I'm not
I
trying to
know,
be.
I know.
It's the reality of it.
It's not false humility, and I'm not accusing you of that in any way, shape, or form. It is the expected answer because it is 100% true. Michael Ramirez wants to know, Chief, in your experience, how have you come together in the past when a member of your department is going through some hardships, whether it be cancer or a sick family member or an urgent struggle?
Now, I'm going to tell you that is 100% our membership. When we bring new people in and we ask them why do you want to come to the colony, one of the things is family. And I'm going to bring up Justin Fraze again.
Okay.
He's a captain now in Squad 18, and something horrific happened on his ship to one of his members. And man, he responded exactly as I would hope any member would. And it was immediate and it was intentional. But I tell you, our guys, they take care of each other. No matter if you're brand new or been here, they're at the hospital, they're at the house, they're what do you need? They're constantly updating me. I can do more personally. That's probably one of my weaknesses is that and it's no excuse, but I have so much going on. A lot of times I'm out of town when these things happen. And I regret that, but our guys care for one another just so much. And we brought in these single role paramedics and a lot of them that, they're like mom around the firehouse. And we got a captain that everybody calls dad. I mean, they truly just love one another. And
Right.
it's that has nothing to do with me. That's all of them. I think I've worked in a lot of organizations, suburban ones, but the colony to me truly lives out the brother and sisterhood. And that's 100% from the battalion chiefs, even the division chiefs down. And so I don't do as good as that role as I should, but it's just impressive. There's never a need that goes unmet, no matter what the situation is.
I love it. I got another one coming at you from Tony Nunez. And anytime someone leads off with the serious question, it makes you know that it's a serious question. He said, serious question here. How do you get other chiefs to listen to you? Just to listen and think. Everything you say is powerful and can truly make the fire service better.
I don't have an answer for that because a lot of them don't listen to me.
I knew.
But who what was the name again?
It's
Daniel?
Tony.
This is what I had to learn pretty quick, and I found this out when I wrote the book. I had to choose a side. I could choose the side of the active fire chiefs, and they're not bad people, but I could buy into that, or the fire side. And this goes back to going to firefighter conferences versus fire chief conferences. My whole goal is to invest in the next generation of fire chiefs. I spend very little time worrying, trying to influence the existing fire chiefs. And again, they're not bad people, but they made up their mind. They've got their plan set. And so I want to really try to influence the next generation of fire chiefs. And I want to influence that battalion chief who says, no way do I want to be a fire chief, or that captain who all the guys love, who all the guys trust. And hopefully I can say something to inspire them to step up and put themselves in that position. Because if you want firefighter-friendly fire chiefs, you got to have firefighters that were respected as they came up through the ranks. They were respected as a senior man, a company officer, a shift commander. If not, you're going to get what you get.
Boom. I've got a list of times. I'm going to pull this up if I can grab it. It'll even show. Yeah, there's a list of timestamps. Just going, just rolling. I can't wait to make the little clips. I love this one from Tim Garrett. He says, "I'm wanting to promote to captain because you're." Wanting to promote to captain because you're tired of bad leadership. Good or a slippery slope?
Man,
Some good
I'm not
questions
going to
tonight. You got to
say,
admit, that's a really good question.
yeah, it's a great question. And I'm not going to ask, are you ready? Because it's like having kids. You're never fully ready.
I love that.
Um, my question to you would be, are you ready to invest and sacrifice? Are you ready to make the position more about them and less about you? If you're able to do that, then pursue it. Now, I'm going to ask, have you had enough time at the rank that you're currently in to learn how to be a good fireman? You got to learn to be a good fireman before you can be a good fire officer. And too many young adults are hurrying too much for that promotion. Um, you know, I'm going to bring up my boys again. My oldest is going on 10 years in Arlington, and he's a very smart kid. He does well on tests, but he wants to be a really good fireman. And Braden's the same way. He's just got 6 years. Um, so if you're getting this, if you understand the job, if you feel like you can contribute and invest in the people that are going to be looking to you for leadership, and you're willing to sacrifice, then you're in the right place to do it. If you're doing it for you, if you're doing it just for more money, if you're doing it to have more power, if you're doing it because you want speaking trumpets on your collar, then I would ask you to reconsider.
Mm, mm. Thank you for a great question, Tony. Thank you for a
Yeah,
great
great
answer.
question.
Thank you for a great answer, Chief. Um, Chief, did you meet Emilio Reyes wants to know, Chief, did you meet any resistance from city management? And if so, how did you influence your city to believe in your vision and philosophy?
Okay. No, I've got the coolest city manager on the planet. And when I tell you a lot of this has to do with luck, it did. I got a great city manager. I came into the city at a time when there was a lot of growth and a lot of things happening. But I have Troy Powell is my city manager, and man, he supports everything that now he holds me accountable. He's got
Sure.
very high standards, but in 15 years, I've never betrayed his trust. I don't play numbers with the budget. I don't play games with him. He knows exactly what he hears from me is what he's going to get, and he supports everything that we do. So no, when we went to 4896, I was expecting kickback, didn't get it. When I went to him recently for a $1.7 million tiller, I was expecting kickback. I didn't get it, but it's a two-way street. They support me, but I do everything that I can to not betray that trust or give them a reason not to. Now I know all cities aren't like that. I've got an outlier. My boss is extremely. If he doesn't have a meeting, he's gonna have a classic rock shirt on and wearing a ball cap, and I can go out and have a beer with him and sit in the morning in his office the next morning and get an ass chew it. So that's probably not a great question to ask me because I'm in a very unique situation.
I love the answer. Uh, all right. I'm going to move to book or books that you think firefighters should be reading. Doesn't have to be fire service related, but anything you think firefighters should read.
Well, I pulled a couple out because I know you. I mean, firefighters to me need to read anything quality that has to do with building construction, um,
Mm,
fire dynamics, you got as Vincent Dunn says, you got to learn enemy. So you can't read too much about building construction. You can't read too much about fire behavior. Reading smoke, all those
mm.
things. Um, so I'm going to say those, but also we like to bring new stuff here. I'm going to share what I'm reading right now. Maybe not necessarily firefighter. Do I need to go more in depth on what firefighters should read? I mean, I think there's a lot of that out there.
No,
I
no,
mean,
I
I think
love. Hey, the two pillars for me are building construction, fire behavior.
but I
Absolutely.
mean,
So beyond that, what are
Fire
you reading?
Engineering Magazine,
Yes,
FDTN stuff,
FDTN.
all
Yes,
those things.
absolutely. Those are the
Listen to
givens.
podcasts.
So you can
But I'm
say
going to
what you're
share.
reading.
Yeah, so I've got three here. So I'm reading this one now. This is Building Corporate Soul. And it's kind of a culture book. But this one is I'm digging, and it's algorithms to live by, right?
Oh,
And
really?
and so this kind of I'm really getting into this systems and processes because the only way you can produce consistent and predictable outcomes is through systems and processes. And when you're talking about creating a mission mindset for the organization, a chosen culture that everybody buys into, then you got to have those things that make sense where there's a logical step. We're becoming we're trying to produce a lot of checklists, and just so that we're, you know, those of you that are involved in special projects, like let's say you're doing promotions or hiring, and you sit down and you go, well, what did we do last time? Well, I don't know. And so you start making stuff up. But if something's working, how do we reproduce that?
Right. Right.
And so that's really what I'm really trying to focus. Now, I'm going to put one more book up here because you always talk about books. The Leader's Bookshelf. This is what all great readers read. And I just go through it. When I see a book, I'll look it up and add it to my wish list. But it talks about the books that these leaders are reading, and it gives a little synopsis. And so I just love this because it turns me on to a bunch of other books.
Oh, wow. And what's that one called?
Yeah,
hold it up in front of your face.
It's The Leader's Bookshelf by Admiral James Stavridis, United States Navy retired, and Manning Ansel. But yeah, it's a cool book, and it's like I say, it's what all other leaders are.
I love it. I love it.
And I'm going to say this, and I think as a firefighter, you really need to stay in firefighter stuff. The strategy, the tactics, the technique, and you need to really probably stay in those up through company officer, maybe even battalion chief or shift commander. But I believe, and this is an opinion only, when you become an assistant chief or fire chief, get away from the fire service. Stop reading the fire service stuff and look for those things in the military, in sports, in the private sector, and try to figure out how those can make your organization be a little bit more capable. I always talk in terms of capabilities and limitations. And, you know, as a fire chief, one of my jobs is to increase the capabilities of my organization and minimize the limitations. And that increases our ability to solve problems, in which why people call us. So the more problems we can solve, the better. Well, the fire service, unfortunately, we're regurgitating a lot of stuff, and we're finding new ways to say it. And you know, there's outliers in there, and every book has some good stuff in it. I'm talking about fire service stuff. So I really try to find those things. You know, I've books written by NASA engineers,
Sure.
Great military leaders. You know, a lot of stuff like Nick Saban is a person who's able to produce the same thing over and over and over and over again. And so those are kind of things I'm paying attention to. But up through company officer or shift commander, stay in the fire books and really learn this job. Watch the podcast. Like I say, read Fire Engineering. FDTN has a lot of street smart stuff. You know, those kind of things. The Book of Andy, engine company stuff. They're just Mittendorf's building. There's tons of different building construction books. Brian Brush and
Castro's.
Castro's just can't. I just got it. I haven't got into it yet, but
I have not cracked it. Yeah.
But I'm looking to see, you know, two people I highly respect. I want to see what their take is on something we've been talking about for a long time.
Right. Love it. I love it. No, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it almost tweaks me to say when you promote to the administrative positions, quit reading the fire stuff. That hurts my soul a little bit, but I absolutely understand what you mean in the spirit of what you're saying is you have a different focus now. Let your people worry about that. Stay plugged in enough to understand and be open-minded, but you have a new responsibility now. And I think that's what you're saying.
You know, when I go to firefighter conferences, I'm seeing the Steve Robertsons and the Chief Ike and Todd Edwards and these guys, you know, Ray McCormick, the masters, and Dennis Laguerre, masters in hope. They're the best there is. You know, right. Sam Hiddle teaching forcible entry. I don't have to force a door, but I have to know how my system is going to operate. So we put out Frederick's Friday every right. Friday. I read those because it helps me understand how my organization is going to operate. We do Monday morning quarterback. I read those because it gives me insight. So when I'm the incident commander, I can anticipate how the organization is going to work. So I'm not downplaying that, but that's kind of what I need to know. I don't need to be all in on how to stretch a line or force a door because I'm not going to do that. I'm not saying it's not important. That's just not where The
No,
best thing that I can do for my organization is bring something in that's going to motivate our people. I can explain it to a point that they're going to buy in. I can show them what the long game looks like so that their efforts will produce something that's going to benefit us all. And so that's just my opinion. I don't know if it's, I'm an EFO dropout. So what do I know?
I can tell you this because it's beautiful because it ties back into what you said earlier about spending time visiting your crews. And that is when you do that. And this is my theory, my opinion, so roll with me. When you do that, you have the luxury of saying, I'm going to focus on building this culture and building vision because I trust my people and they know my heart and I know their souls. Does that make sense?
Yeah, nobody ever knocks on my door and say, "Hey, Chief, we're having a hard time forcing this door. Will you come help us out?" No, but they want to know what does the future look like?
Right.
What is our purpose? What do we need to be thinking about?
And you're plugged in enough to know that they're up to speed on forcible entry. I love it.
I don't. I worry about what happens in the firehouse, not outside the firehouse. Our problems occur in the firehouse. They don't. Knock on wood, we could have a tragic event tonight, but I'm just very blessed to work with some great people. It took a long time to get there, but I trust them. I trust them tremendously.
There are a lot of milestones that happen on the scrap. I want to mention here. I gotta pull up this so I can get it right. The original, the OG. He was the 17th guest on the scrap. I met you when you came up here and spoke at Oklahoma, and I said, "Hey, I was the scrap wasn't even a thing. It was barely a thing." And you said, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to you." And you came on, and we had a great conversation. That was number 27.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was. I don't even remember how long it was. I don't even think it was like more than it was less than an hour. I know that. And
Wasn't
then
that when we did that benefit for those firefighters that were killed?
that was shortly after, I believe. I'll have to actually look at the time frame. Okay. But that was the original. That was the original time you came on, and then you were number 64. So number 27, number 64, which was not quite a year later, and then number 178, and then now number 244, and then throw in for good measure, you also did the Mega Scrap Alpha, the original Mega Scrap with Chief Scott
Thompson. Two rock stars with Walt Lewis and Mike Walker. Man,
yeah. Hey, yeah, absolutely crushed it. So anyway, you're the first person to be on the scrap, unless I've done bad math somewhere, the first person to be a 5-peat. So it's a milestone.
That's one record I would like to keep. So would you please bring me on? Because I that's something I'd be proud of, is to hold the record on scrap appearances. I may be saying the same old crap.
I think everybody, so many people have said, absolutely, please make it happen. We didn't even get to everything we were planning, and I didn't get to all the audience questions, which is always a great metric. And there's still people here listening. So you combine those things, then absolutely, we're going to make it happen again. So we'll try to keep the record, and we'll see if anybody can challenge it. Ike may try to challenge it because he's the only one breathing down. Ike and Rob Ramirez, I think, are the two.
Well, if I got to lose, those are two great ones to lose to. So I'll bow out gracefully to both.
We'll do it. We'll keep a leaderboard going. But it does bring me to my favorite part of the scrap, which is my favorite part's the books. I'll be honest. But I love this part, which is the 5 questions for firefighters. You've been exposed to it many times. And now it is the 5 questions for firefighters version 3.2. This is the third iteration of questions asked over the history of the scrap. I'm going to pull an audible. And I'm gonna change the number 3 because we talked about it last night, and it's a new one, so it's gonna be completely a curveball at you. So you just have to roll with it. But are you ready for the next 5 questions for firefighters, version 3.3 now?
Bring it.
All right, here we go. What is the skill that has carried you through your fire service career?
Curiosity. Trying to always understand the why. From a young firefighter, I asked, why are we doing this? This makes no sense. We can do it better. So I would just have to say a curiosity and a desire to be a firefighter that I always thought a firefighter should be. I'm not saying that's right, but in my mind, that vision of what a fireman should be and pursuing that for 40 years.
Love it.
Did I answer that right?
Oh, you answered it absolutely right. I love when people give me a clear cut answer because so many times people try to say, well, it's a combination of no. I love curiosity. Hey, I love Ted Lasso and his love of curiosity. I don't know if you watch Ted Lasso or are a fan, but I absolutely love curiosity from a leadership position. And so
That's how you get out of your comfort zone, right? Curiosity gets you out of your comfort zone.
yes, Gregory Van Ham summed it up. Max points. Always be a sponge to soak up knowledge. Absolutely. Number one, easy answer. Max points, curiosity. Number two, it's Jobtown. It's time. You're en route. You're responding. You got to think of the scene from Backdraft where he's jumping on the rig and they're slapping that. If you know cassette decks, he's slapping that tape in there, playing that song. What song are you playing en route?
That's an easy one, man. The Assignment.
The Assignment.
Either that one or Left Cheek, Right Cheek. One of those two.
All right. I actually didn't see that coming, which surprised me because I should have seen that coming. Number three, max points. I'll give it to you 100%, especially because it was your walkout song. Absolutely.
For those that don't know, that's by my daughter-in-law, Taylor. She's a rapper, and The Assignment is her piece of work. So Aaron Fields, that's another Aaron Fields. When we were together, he said, man, you got to incorporate your stepdaughter in this because you talk about her in your program. So I said, hey, can I have this as my walkout? And they were like, what? And so yeah, I'm going to go with that. Why not?
No, it's beautiful. It is now officially, it's going to be added. There is a Spotify list with all these songs, so it will be added into the playlist. Now, this is the one I've been asking, what's your favorite fire service tradition? And I love the question, don't get me wrong. But the problem is that anytime you have to put qualifiers on it, and I had to start saying, but you can't say the Firehouse kitchen table because the Firehouse kitchen table was dominating. Now, there was a lot of great answers besides that, so I don't want to take it away. But instead, I'm going to now ask this question. Chief Thompson, you're now a rookie. You're assigned to a station and you have to cook dinner. What is your go-to meal?
Okay, I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but I'm Italian, so I can. Wop clop.
I don't know what it is.
Well, it's kind of a combination between lasagna and kind of spaghetti and meatballs, and it's kind of in a big pot, and that was a name that was given to it at the Firehouse. But I love making you know, a lot of people call it sauce, but Italian gravy,
Okay.
and homemade meatballs, and so you know, chicken parmesan, but wobklop is probably the thing that I'm most famous for. And I remember a couple times, you know, when I was younger and I'd have dates over to the house and cook dinner. I only knew how to cook for 14 people. I didn't know how to cook for two. So they'd walk in and go, "My gosh, are we having company tonight?" And I said, "This is all I know." So yeah, I'm going to say that combination of, and my nickname is Gino, so it was Gino's Wopklop.
Okay. The Geno's Wop Clop. And
If I offended anybody, I apologize. And that'll only get me half a point, but I got to give them up somewhere.
I will go with the max points, and people are agreeing. Fireman 718 said max points. John Velez said max points. Absolutely, you get max points for the Wop Clop. But to not be offensive, we have to be invited to have some Wop Clop at some point.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, number 4, on the clock. This is the one that's on the clock. Let me make my thing work right so I can make this happen here. Boom, there's the clock. You can see the clock, yes, Chief?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure. It's the Mount Rushmore of the fire service. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of the fire service? You get 1 minute to put them on there and explain why. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And go.
Alan Brunacini. Just a heavy influence as I was coming up through the fire service, and just was such a huge influence. A lot of my leadership, and I know a lot of people don't agree with Alan, but I got to spend a lot of quality time with him, and so he would definitely be on there. Bobby Halton has got to be on there because of all the opportunities that Bobby had given me and believed in me. And then I got to say Rick Lasky, because Rick changed the way that I looked at all of this. You know, I was a program fire chief when I went to work for Rick Lasky, and he showed me it was okay to think outside the box. It was okay to do the things that was best for your people. So I'm going to say Alan Brunacini, Bobby Halton, and Rick Lasky, and kind of in those stages of my progression. Rick brought me to my first FDIC, and Bobby just, he was the first one to offer me the keynote, and then Dave picked up. So those would be my three, and I'm running out of time.
Perfect. There you go. 3 on the Mount Rushmore. I will give it max points because Bruno, Halton, Lasky, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. I'm
those
actually,
guys, you talk about fire service giants who weren't afraid what their peers thought. They were cutting edge, and they really, each one of those guys loved the men and women in their org, and there was no question about it. You never once said this is about you. You always knew it was about the men and women that looked to them for leadership.
Boom. Easy, Max. Now, this one you've had before because it's the question that's been around, and you have been around for the scrap. So you know it is heavy fire, searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES? And you get your answer, whether it's changed or whether it's new. You go.
All right. So I'm going to change it up. The previous 3 times I was on here, I said VES. All right. Because of the opportunity to save a life. I'm going to change that just a little bit, and I'm going to say first in on the line because of all the advancement and all the things we know about engine work now. I never knew it. I wish, I was probably an effective fireman, but I wasn't a good fireman by today's standards because I didn't know all the cool stuff. I didn't know how to, do the things that they're teaching today. So I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to go with the engine this way and have all that knowledge to incorporate all the cool stuff that Ramagis is teaching and Robertson is teaching and Ray McCormick is teaching. And so there, I'm going to do an outlier. I want to be that stud nozzle guy that just goes in and like a ballerina with such surgical precision that I can hit that hen nozzle and get that right to the base of the fire with 300 gallons of water and save the day for everybody.
I love it. I love the answer. I love the reason why. I absolutely love it. Jason Haynes said, engine work for the win, max points. There's about 15 people that said max points in the chat. Chief, you absolutely destroyed the 5 questions for firefighters yet again, as expected. I think it would be anything but a disappointment if it was not. So, with that, we officially bring 244 to a close. Thank you for sharing your evening with us.
Thank you, brother.
If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
Scott, 2 T's, at fireserviceleadership.com. If you have problems downloading the mentor packet, I'll send it to you. As I always say, I'm a little bit of a procrastinator, and since FDIC, man, my dance card is like filled up with podcasts and articles, and so I'll get to you when I can. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So
right.
Yeah. So any way I can help you, but that's the best way to get in touch with me.
That's why I was glad to have this one pre-planned before the keynote. I love it. Everybody, go to firehousevigilance.com. If you're not a member of the Vigilantes, go join up. It is $5 a month on Patreon. We're on Patreon. We had a killer last night in Pensacola, a killer vigilante get together. People were slamming down coins, showing their numbers. We did the creed out loud. There was a toast led by Preston Lyons. It was an amazing time. Be a part of it. And when we're there, everybody's invited. It's not exclusive. But to know about it, you have to know about it. And you know about it by being a vigilante. So there's going to be an after party. We always do an after party after the scrap. Chief is invited. I haven't told him that he's invited, but I'm telling him now live. But he'll more than likely show up. We always like to roast the guest after the scrap.
What do I need to do? What do I need to do to get there?
I'll send you a link.
Oh, okay.
Sam will send you. Well, Sam usually sends the link to everybody. It's just basically
I've
we
got
get together.
some left, so I've got a little more in me.
I love it. I love it. And here's the thing. It's a hard cap of 20 minutes because I have to hang up after 20 minutes and go edit the podcast so that it gets out on time. Otherwise, I'll talk all night, and the guests usually will too. But everybody, thank you for being here live. Coming up on the show next week, Mike Galliano, one of my favorite people. I mean, honestly, what a tremendous human being. He's coming on.
True gentleman.
Absolutely. On May 8th, and then we talked about him tonight, Anthony Castros, the week after that. And then Michael Dozier, the company officer. How is that for, Dan Shaw, Scott Thompson, Mike Galliano, Anthony Castros, and Michael Dozier. 2024
just
is
had Michael
killing.
in my class at FDIC, and we got to visit a little bit. A lot of respect for all those people.
Brother, I'm telling you, man. People say thanks for what you do, Chief. I'm like, thank me. I get to talk to the coolest cats in the fire service. Don't miss the episodes. 2024 is rolling in style. If you want to be a part, that's one thing. We are doing a new V50. I don't think I have a book in front of me. Maybe. No, I don't. I'm sorry. We're starting a new V50 on May 13th. If you want to be a part of it, man, jump on the website, get your book ordered because it's a 50-day commitment. We all support each other. It's awesome. If you want to make a change in your life, it's great. Be a part of it. The V50 is amazing. It really does help you change your life. Thank you, Scott Thompson, for sharing your evening with us. Thank you, Corley. Audience, I can't ever tell you enough how much you mean to the scrap because without your questions, without your interaction, it would just be me and Scott talking. Don't get me wrong. I'd love that. But you guys are what makes this really enjoyable. So thank you for being here and sharing your evening each and every time. Remember, mutts don't scrap. I hope the tones stay silent unless it is burning. Everybody, stay safe out there.